Welcome to the Sunday edition of the What's Left podcast. I'm John here with my friend Brad, my brother Jake. We're here to do a little quick Sunday check-in. Chris Van Hollen all over the Sunday shows, explaining himself, talking about his visit with Abrego Garcia, which was well publicized online. The president of El Salvador, old Bukaki, however you want to pronounce it, it makes no difference to me. Because the man is an absolute monster who we should not be associating with in the first place. The prison is a death camp, and we have no business being involved in it. Setting all that aside, we are here talking about the way that the right has gone after Abrego Garcia's character, the staging of the whole thing with the margaritas, the hat on his head to hide his shaved head, all of it, all of it. So I want to get into it with you guys. What's for you guys like? What was one of the main things you saw on the internet that that the right was pushing? That's just bullshit on this Abrego Garcia thing.
I just saw the photos and just like the nitpicking anything that was going on in them and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
trying to they're out here sipping margaritas.
mm-hmm.
You guys know that like the original plan was to like set them out by the pool, like that's where he wanted them, of one of the resorts, because there's
The backwards fucking pageantry is insane. Like the White House released a video of them just showing them running these men in handcuffs with bald heads, broken down and beaten, being deported and put in this El Salvador prison. And this is the image the White House wanted to portray. And then now they're like, no, the person we wrongfully sent to an El Salvador prison is actually enjoying a wonderful life here in this nice button-up shirt we have him in. Shut the fuck up. That is so corny. So corny.
so corny, and people go along with it too, and yeah, it's crazy, and you know their main is a very poor economy. It's something that one of the shows is explaining. It's a very poor economy down there, and their only thing is tourism. So CCOT is like his baby, and he doesn't want it shut down. So like that's kind of got him in a bit of a panic too. So like all this public display, like so it was kind of like a dual like show off of the resort, and I mean just it was all marketing essentially, and I just think that is like just speaks to what a piece of shit this human being is, and the fact that he was sitting in there in the Oval Office dressed like a fucking I don't know, date rapist, just waiting around, and he gets like the hero's welcome, you know. And Zelensky comes in with the bags under his eyes. Man is running around all over the universe fighting for his people, and he gets fucking the split screen there is just vile beyond words. And I really think it is breaking through. Like people are seeing this. Reasonable people are seeing the split screen here, I think. Did you see the tattoos thing with the hands, the fingers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What did you think of that?
Hand tattoos are hot.
Do you guys know that those were not his hands?
I didn't know that.
Because why the fuck not?
If you look at the other pictures, those tattoos don't exist on him. So those aren't his hands. So
Wow.
besides that the tattoos, that the nonsense logic of what they came up with, the cross tattoo being the one. But if the cross tattoo is a gang sign, see you later, Caroline Levitt, right?
Right.
Pete Hegseth's tattoos are actually 100% acceptable markers of the Aryan Brotherhood, as well as several other white supremacist gangs in prison. That would definitely get him some, if not necessarily into the gangs, that would definitely get him mad props among those people in prison. Those are real. That's a real thing. None of that other shit is actually a thing. Not for MS-13 anyway. MS-13 is not one of those gangs that is, they're not tongue-in-cheek. MS-13 tattoos are MS. That is what an MS-13 tattoo looks like. So I just think the hypocrisy is crazy. So if you were thinking that maybe this was about something other than what everything else in the Trump administration is about, guess what? It's about racism. It's about racism. It's racist. Gah, surprise. You know, if this man is brown, so his tattoos are gang tattoos. That man is white, so it's about Jesus. Get the fuck out of my face with that stuff, dude. Also, Hegseth, gotta mention it. Second signal chat. Guys,
Yeah, he's gone. See ya. Adios.
Do you think that he can survive? I mean, there's nobody in this one like his family.
He's got to go. He's got to go.
You-
I think if Trump has any sense at all, he's got to go.
Like, I know what our family chat's like, so I assume that like Hegseth is like baby picture, toddler doing thing, fucking war plans. Like,
Right.
that's a wild ass fucking family chat, dude. That's some shit.
How do you do it again immediately?
Because alcoholic and white
Too many
privilege.
whiskey sours.
For sure, dude. Like I did that shit all the time. I once got a DUI a month after my last I got my license back. I got my license back, bought a truck, and then drove it and got a DUI. I had that truck. In my mind, that's probably what happened to Pete here. So yeah, this whole thing is beyond out, and I think Van Hollen is doing a really good job of being out there and just pointing out that it's about due process. And these disgusting people on Fox News are really out here saying like, if you're going to talk about due process, you want to have it better than this guy, which is all lies. Like none of this shit is true. He is not an MS-13 gang member. He is not at no point were any charges filed between domestic abuse. His wife does not fear for her life. They have a good life, a happy son. Like none of this stuff that the right is pushing is true. But even if it was, the point is about due process. So what Van Hollen has been doing is just been like, you know what? None of it's true. Doesn't matter. Due process. And that is the message. And that is the message, man. And they're doing a much better job of it than we did with George Floyd. For whatever reason, people were not as... We didn't do as good a job. Like, they came after George Floyd. George Floyd was an addict. He had some petty crime in his past. Addicty stuff. Run-of-the-mill, bad checks, petty theft, here and there. And the shit, I remember losing my shit at work on one of our... Because I worked with a bunch of addicts at the time. Paul. You remember Paul, Brad?
Sure.
I lost fucking shit on him. Because he was... I was like, you're George Floyd's age, dude. That could have been you. You think because you're white that couldn't have been you? I lost it on him, and it's the same thing here, man. We're suffering from the same disease. Like people see Abrego Garcia and they think, well, I don't get that dark, so it can't happen to me. And it's not true. If it can happen to one person, it can happen to anybody. And we see it all the time. I mean, the cops are back. They are just as violent as they were. Police violence is way up. And I think this is interesting, too. A lot of these ICE agents are police officers who can't get jobs anymore. Did you guys know that?
I did not.
Makes sense, though.
Yep. A lot of these ICE officers that they're hiring are just police officers who can't get jobs anywhere else.
My county sheriff's department just put a thing out saying they'll be working with ICE to remove illegal immigrants from this county. Buddy. Oh my gosh. We have a 2% Hispanic population in my entire county.
Yeah.
I'm so sure that's what it should be worked on. But mind you, everybody's doing meth and heroin. So, I don't know. Maybe focus on that, buddy.
Yeah, maybe focus on what the actual issues are.
Yeah, fucking dumb.
Not gonna happen. But political pressure's working, boys. It really is.
It has to. These Republicans are afraid to lose their seats.
Yeah, it's getting real. There are some reports that even Trump is nervous, and for it to penetrate the shielded protection dome of non-triggering information, for it to penetrate a cabinet of guys who just stand around and start every sentence with "Mr. Trump, you are looking so much more handsome and even healthier than you were yesterday." For him to be worried in a atmosphere like that enough to where they are considering taxing billionaires in some fashion, they're not going to do it, but they're entertaining Orrin Cass, who is panicking because it was a right wing populist who basically wrote this. He's responsible for this mess that we're in. One of the people responsible for the mess that we're in. But like they are literally considering it. I mean, they had to move Abrego Garcia to a safer prison. I mean, that's huge, huge. They're still not going to bring him back because they still think they're right. But just to see them fold in Harvard, hell yeah, Harvard is actually they fought back, and the Trump administration was like, oh well, it was just a joke. It was just a joke. They pulled back the letter like it was a three. Apparently, this was like a 3-page typo. They were like, oh well. We didn't mean it. If you had just called, they're like trying to blame them. But like, if you had just called, we would have told you that it was, not whatever. So
Gotcha.
the thing with Harvard is
April Fools.
like
It's a clown show. It's a clown show.
clown.
Wrong
It is-
address. Sorry.
It's the most idiotic thing I've ever seen in my life. So we're gonna talk a little bit about I want to talk about this. We never get a chance to talk about this, but I want to talk about like how we move forward as Democrats, the new coalition. Like, how do we get people to believe that our side is for them? I mean, we are, but how do we get them to believe it? And we have this interview with Sarah McBride that I'm going to post to the show notes. It was a great interview. She, if you don't know, is the transgender member of Congress from Delaware, the first. And she is constantly being attacked by Nancy Mace. So I wanted to highlight in this episode for being the piece of shit that she is. But it's a short one, so we'll save it. We'll talk about her on Thursday.
A few years ago, Democrats might not have wanted to talk about protecting due process. But at the same time, you said a few years ago, Democrats might not want to talk about border security. What do you think led to the point where Democrats were unable to talk about both the basic values of rule of law and the basic values of generosity and kind of protecting basic rights? Like, how did we end up in a place where there was nothing you could say about immigration?
I think a lot of times you see politicians who will say, if I can identify a risk to something, that means I shouldn't do it. We are, as human beings, very bad at evaluating risk and reward. And so I think on the one hand, you've had a dynamic where we were lulled into a false sense of security, of the sort of cultural momentum of where we were. And I think it created an absolutism that has increasingly shrunk our ranks because it has excluded people who are with us on 90% of things, but disagree with us on 10% of things. I think people have been scared of getting canceled online. They've been scared of backlash to nuance. They've been scared to do politics because it's not appropriate performative outrage online. So I think they've been scared into not employing an approach that meets voters where they are. But then on the flip side, after the last election in particular, there was such a backlash to that people went, the lesson learned here is that we can never talk about these things, that we have to completely reject
price
it.
of eggs.
There is, for lack of a better term, a third way here.
Oh, no. Well, the last we'll ever see is Sarah McBride.
Yeah.
Nice to know you.
But yeah, it's an important fact going forward. And the one thing though that like just can't be compromised on is that this man is a racist, misogynistic moron. And supporting fascism is a non-starter. Non-starter. That being said, so how do we create space for other people when my knee-jerk reaction is like, fascist. Fascist enabler. And I don't want to be a party purist. I don't believe in a purity test. I'm not pure because of virtue. Like, I'm not a good person. I've done plenty of terrible things, said plenty of shitty things in my life. Um, so I'm not here to be trying to be judgmental. I believe in second chances, obviously. I believe that people can change, but I also believe that like there is certain things that like there's certain lines we can't cross. So I mean, let's talk. Jake, you watched the interview. What was your favorite part of it?
My favorite part was when she compared Republicans as men and Democrats as women, because Republicans can yell and scream and holler, and it's a sense of power. But when liberals do it, we're sissies, crybabies. And there's much more she compared to the man-woman aspect of it all. Like, liberals taking more quiet but more thought out, caring about one another approach, which was nice. That was like a big takeaway.
Yeah, it is. It's the double standard.
Mm-hmm.
We are always expected to be the ones who follow the rules and uphold things, and when we don't, it's, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. But the Republicans are allowed to just take a giant shit on Nancy Pelosi's desk and then just walk out the next day. No big.
High honors because it was so powerful of them.
Mm.
Woo!
Yep. They're worried about where people can go to the bathroom, but one person can drop their drawers in a fucking crowd of 5,000 people and take a shit on Nancy Pelosi's desk, and nobody bats a goddamn eyelash. Just fucking hanging dong in front of everybody. But, let's fucking chase children into the bathroom. Let's fucking poke around Little League girls' softball teams to make sure nobody's got a fucking dick in there. Like, this is the stuff, man. This is the stuff, the overreach. She mentioned that. That AOC was the first person to bring that point up. Like, you are endangering children here. Like, how do you enforce these things?
Yeah.
And I just think I think that's the way through. You know what I mean? Like, give people space, but like, start talking about it more of like a libertarian kind of way. Like, just do what you want to do in life and leave.
That is how they need to address the image. If they're going to make gender identity or gender politics a focal point, they need to come from the standpoint of everyone just live your life. They don't need to. They need to just make it equal for everybody. I don't tread on you. You don't tread on me. Republicans love when you say don't tread on me. They fucking love that shit.
Yeah. Put it on a
They need to come with that image because right now we are still not coming from a place of unity. They hate these hands-off protests that we're doing. They hate them, bro. They absolutely hate them because we're not causing a ruckus. We're not breaking shit. We're just pissed off and we're letting it be known. And they hate the fact that we're using our voices. Yeah. There's so many people commenting on it, like, you're not doing anything and blah, 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 blah. Well, we are obviously doing something because you're getting so upset about it. And there's people who are starting to turn their back on Trump. I don't mean like anybody in his cabinet or anything like that, but I mean just like the average Joe is starting to see what is really coming about. And I've seen a couple TikToks of like former MAGAs or people that voted for him that are like, we fucked up. This is terrible. I'm admitting this. I messed up. I'm admitting this. And then people are just dragging him in the comments. Yeah, well, like, bitch, we told you so. So we don't care how miserable it is for you. But we need to just let them in. Like, come on in. You fucked up. Fix it.
Yeah.
Nothing we can do about the past. Like you said, everybody deserves a second chance. Like, yes, we warned you multiple times since day one, essentially, that this was terrible for the country, and you didn't listen. But now you see it's terrible for the country, and if we keep being like, fuck you, you're dumb, they're going to be like, well, you're not here to help me anyway, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
We got to let them in and stop bullying them.
Yep. one thing I love that she said is that the first thing that people look for in a politician is they want to know, do you like me?
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
what is your stance on X issue. It's, do you like me? And if I can believe that you like me, that you care about me, then I'm willing to listen to whatever you've got to offer. And that's what people like. That's what Donald Trump's. He's insincere and lying and a douchebag on every available level. A huckster, but he leads it off of my beautiful people. I love you people. You know what I mean? He says it all of the time. I'm
Yep.
out here for you. It's a lie, but he pushes it. Joe Biden, for comparison's sake only, like he went out and he did a lot of things, especially like for the unions and in the infrastructure world. And but at no point did he ever come out there. Was he out there like all the time saying that? Like he wasn't explaining it to people. He wasn't telling people, "I care about you and this is how." He was just. It was just. And there is this sort of, especially in Democratic politics, where they're like, "We did all this stuff for you," you know, like
Do we think
don't.
that's why Kamala had such a strong response in the beginning? Because people felt that she truly cared? Because it takes a woman to show that kind of compassion and warmth and like, oh, okay, oh, take care of me. Oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was the first time I felt following a president, like, wow, she genuinely, like, truly cares for me. You know what I mean? Like, I've never felt that. Like, I loved Obama, but like Sarah said in her interview, like, at first he wasn't for the gays, but he's changed. And what Brad said, we just got to welcome him in now because, like, people can change. It's not uncommon for people to change viewpoints or anything, but it's about that time.
Yeah, it's dude.
It's about that time.
Fascism.
Real quick, I just want to say that Jake did not have that feeling for Hillary Clinton, that crotchety old bitch. Fuck her old ass. She should have never been there either. What the fuck? Them
No.
girls be fucking up.
No.
They be fucking up.
So many things.
God, Bernie would have won that in a landslide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Him, I felt like he cared.
yeah.
I did.
That's a great phrase. He's another one. Genuinely, you feel he cares. AOC, you genuinely feel she cares. Jasmine Crockett does an excellent job of that. You genuinely feel that she cares about her constituents. And not every politician does that. Chuck Schumer, like, he probably does genuinely care about his constituents, but like he's so boring that nobody gives a shit.
Right. You gotta have personality too.
Yeah, you gotta have the personality to sell it. And you can't be afraid of, like, I don't want to say fight, because it's not really what it's about. But be willing to, it's more about just like really believing what you believe and stating it purposefully. You know, like as a politician, don't be afraid to grandstand a little bit. If somebody wants to fucking, you don't have to punch them in the face don't be afraid to make the argument. Especially if you're on the right side of things, often on the Democratic side you are. But you have, and it's the same thing with the Palestine issue. Is just as touchy as this. Like you have to. War is disgusting, and those images are gruesome. But you've got to know who your enemies are not. And even just because someone has been pro-Israel in the past, or they are an Israel hawk, so to speak, on the defense side of things, doesn't mean they can't be swayed or convinced, as long as they are not out here arresting students for the things that they say. Like you have to be able to vote a coalition. She talked about the civil rights movement. She talked about how it was built in acts. There's the civil rights movement. There's the Civil Rights Act of 57, 63, 65, 67, and it still didn't get the job all the way done. There are the person who is disappearing people off the street. That's an enemy. Other people may be wrong. Other people may be even evil, but not everybody is your enemy. Only certain people are so far gone that they are unconvincible, unchangeable. Donald Trump's one of those people, and you show up in primaries and you vote and you actually become a reliable block instead of being like, well, fuck it, fuck all of them. They don't get my vote, none of that shit. Then nothing changes. You know, you have to use what voice you have to push politicians to. Like, politicians can both lead the discourse, but so does the public. Public has the ability to change politicians' minds. So as long as the person is not a bad person, there's a chance that you may get to them. So I wouldn't give up on a politician simply because they haven't been to the Free Palestine side yet, is all I'm saying. That's a big piece of what needs to change. I mean, Netanyahu is just as much of a butcher as Putin. He's just as much of a butcher as any of these other ones, but this is who we're aligned with right now. So I really feel like we've got to get out of that rut. So I think this interview was like super helpful and super important. I think this conversation is super important too. Cool. Like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and Substack. Leave a comment, share, and tell your friends. Till next time, I'm John.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Brad.
That's what's left.
Got it.